Update.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I just wanted to double check. Just I'll ask everybody, just make sure it's okay. Um, does your dog like to? Uh-oh. What? Shh.
Now yours heard mine.
Now yeah, I was just gonna say now mine's heard yours, so he's gonna want to talk too.
You're probably going to hear some squeaker toys in the background or something. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Same with him. He's the attention hog too. So he's gonna hear
Yep.
your voice and be like, "Somebody's here. Where's she? Where is she? Where is she?"
Right. Right. I get it.
Does he go with you on your camping trips or hiking trips?
Yes, she goes on pretty much any adventure that I go on unless like dogs aren't allowed or if so like I just backpacked in Pennsylvania and fine for humans, not so great for my dog. So she got
Yeah.
to spend the weekend with my parents getting totally spoiled. So
Oh,
yeah,
well, that's good.
life
So
of luxury.
yeah. Whereabouts in Pennsylvania did you guys get to go hike?
So I don't know how well you know the layout. It's Titusville, Oil City, Meadville area. So it's like halfway between Erie and Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, you know what? Can I just put you on a quick hold while I let him go outside?
absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I should have known. The minute I start this, now he wants attention and he wants to play.
Yep, that's what happens.
Yeah. Okay. So, like kind of like the what I'm kind of doing is I did start a podcast on camping and hiking, especially for females and women, those of us who want to get out but we don't we don't know where to go. Like for me, for example, I was always a tomboy, so I always wanted to be outside.
Yeah.
um, but some people, they, especially women, they get fed the fear of going out and being alone, even hiking alone or going for a
Oh
walk.
yeah.
And so I started my podcast to kind of help encourage other women to get out there. There's great groups like the Facebook group that we're a part of,
Mhm.
and other um, Facebook groups that are geared towards, encouraging women to go out. And, they have like really great meetup groups so you can meet new people and kind of encourage and foster and support other women to go out hiking. And while I was doing my podcast, I would throw in like ghost stories and, things to
Yeah.
make it fun and exciting. I had a couple people ask about interviews, and that was totally foreign to me. But after I think like the third one asked about it, I thought, oh, screw it, let's just do it. You
Yeah,
know,
right. Give it a
what
shot. Why not?
happened? Yeah, right. Yeah. So, how long have you been out? Like, do you solo camp and hike,
Oh
or
my
do you?
God. All the time.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, I sometimes prefer it more than other things. Just kind of depends on my mood. I've been in the outdoors, like grew up. My parents worked and were getting their degrees in the city when I was younger. So my brother and I got to spend a lot of time at my grandma's farm. So I was out like running around all the time. Like you had to fight me to put shoes on, usually
Yeah,
covered in mud and grass and all that stuff. That's, very feral, which I
same,
absolutely loved.
same.
Um, and when I moved to, like, I'd been backpacking for a while, but I moved to Ohio 15 years ago and didn't know anybody. And I was like, well, I don't know anybody, but I really like going outside. So I'm just going to keep going outside. Like, I'm not going to wait around for folks to be available in order for me to do the things that I
Yes.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, that's the other thing I found was difficult was not everybody likes going out camping, likes
Yeah.
going out hiking, likes being out, especially when it's cold and things like that. And I get it, but yeah, I didn't want to wait around for other people to eventually want to join me too. So yeah, I kind of started doing it on my own.
Well, and I will say too, and there's nothing wrong with this, but like my circle of friends, whenever I was in college, they all got married and had families. And I thought that was going to be my path, but it wasn't. Again, nothing wrong with it. I got
Right.
really into my career and enjoyed it, loved it. And like I said, I just love being outside. So,
So, can I ask, what do you do?
yeah, I am. Am I allowed to say organizations on here that I work for?
Fine by me.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, as long as your organization is fine with
Yeah, as
it.
far as I know, yeah. I am the education director for Cuyahoga Valley National Park. It's the Conservancy for Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So, like, you've got the national park, and then you've got the Conservancy, which is the friends group of the park. So, we help support all of their endeavors essentially and do it a lot easier because we're not a government entity. Um,
Okay.
and I get to like write programs, I train instructors, I get to do grant writing, which I know is not very exciting, but I actually enjoy doing it. Community outreach, like we're going to some career fairs these next couple of weeks. It's really all of the things with education that I love, but then with the added bonus of being able to be outside and work in green spaces. So like the two
Awesome.
worlds of my life have come together.
That's
But
awesome.
that's only within the past year. Prior to that, I was an assistant principal for a high school and then high school, middle school science teacher for, 15 years, 14 years.
No, that's still great. That's an interesting, though, career shift.
Oh, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Is that something you were hoping to do, or did it just kind of like fall in your
Uh, so I will say this. I did not, I didn't anticipate the change. The change was from an administrative perspective, just from some not the best working conditions. Love the kids, love the teachers, but as I'm sure any administrator will tell you, sometimes the politics and the bureaucracy just suck out your soul. So I started looking for other jobs, wasn't really anticipating a major change in the middle of the school year because I knew what kind of an imposition that would be on everybody. But I've been working with Cuyahoga Valley National Park and the Conservancy for my 6 years as an assistant principal in Cleveland, and just really love the organization. Like, love the national park, number one, go there all the time. And then this organization that supports it. And I would get to do the education and the training and everything that I was really craving doing more of. Um, so, like I said, it was like a perfect marriage of the two. Timing wasn't so great for the school, and I understand that, but the timing was right for me and for my
Yeah,
peace of mind, you know.
sometimes you got to put you first.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I absolutely like I am a bazillion times happier than I was this time last year. And it's a really great change on a personal level.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So now, how long did you say you were here in Ohio?
15 years, but
Oh,
I'd only planned on being here for a year
oh,
and
really?
15 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Ohio sucks you in, doesn't
It
it?
does. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, so people were like, "Wait, you're moving to Cleveland? Why?"
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I fell in love with the area. And I don't know if you know this, but it's really expensive to get a teaching license in Ohio because they don't do reciprocity. So I had a PA teacher's license and Ohio wouldn't accept it. So I had to start from square one with them. It was great.
Really?
Not really.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, glad you're here.
Yeah,
So
I'm a big fan.
that's awesome. A Buckeye fan? Okay, that's awesome. So you went out, your last camping trip that you had mentioned, it was in Pennsylvania, a
Mhm.
little bit north of Pittsburgh.
Right.
Why did you go there?
Well, two reasons. I made a commitment to backpack every month of the year this year. It's kind of been something that I've been doing for a couple of years, but a friend of mine, my type 2 adventure buddy and fellow ambassador in that same group that you and I are part of,
Yes.
she really wanted to go do this trail. And, it's a special breed of person who will go backpacking in 4 to 6 inches of snow and it's freeze your face off cold outside kind of a thing.
Yes, it
So
was.
when Mandy called, I really couldn't say no to it. And it's such a beautiful trail.
Really.
So we were well prepared for it, went out. The conditions were not so great, shocking,
But
but
yeah, you went at like a perfect time.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
it
you
was.
told me that. I was a little concerned, like, oh my, well, you know what? I trust her. I mean, I don't know her, but
Yeah. No, I will say, one of the big things, we go back to talking about solo hiking. I love being outside, and the more that I spent time by myself in the outdoors, I of course wanted to be like feeling more secure just with my own personal safety. Wanted to also do like leave no trace. I wanted to make sure that if something did go wrong, that I was going to be equipped to take care of myself, my dog, and if I had taken a friend or two with me, that, you can't always anticipate everything, but you can certainly be well prepared for it. So I took a whole bunch of classes and everything. So I say all that to say is like I have set myself up to be comfortable in a lot of different situations, which allows me to go and do backpacking every month out of the year in a variety of conditions.
Okay.
And it makes all
Well,
the people that hike with me feel a lot better.
well, yeah, I would feel better knowing that someone's not going to freak
Yeah.
out if, something happens. But so you mentioned the classes. Are these classes that your organization, Cuyahoga, the national parks offer, like classes?
It's been a couple of years of certificate gathering, is what I will say. My background is in biology, chemistry, wildlife biology. I'm a nature nerd at heart. Like, go for a hike with me and ask me about plants and animals, and you will know. So I have that background. I am a certified volunteer naturalist for Ohio. Just again, because I'm a nature nerd, I want to go outside and do all of that. I am a level two leave no trace instructor, so I can get other folks trained in leave no trace principles, which is really great. I am a certified interpretive guide. Went out to Grand Canyon a couple months back and got that certification. What else do I do? I'm a Knowles Wilderness EMT, certified Knowles Wilderness EMT, and I got that a couple years back. Because again, you're out in the backcountry, you want to be able to take care of yourself and anybody else you come across.
Mhm.
Um, and then just kind of like a smattering of other survival related classes over the past probably 5 or 6 years through a couple of different organizations. My organization currently does not offer any specifically. However, bringing me onto the team with my certifications, part of the plan is for me to be able to offer a lot of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to start out, so for somebody who wants to start out, do you recommend, first aid, like your basics, like CPR and, God forbid somebody falls and breaks something, a
Yeah.
tourniquet, or, simple things like that. Um,
Yeah.
that's something that your organization is looking into.
Yeah, and I think, there's a couple of different organizations. One of the great things about Ohio and even in Northeast Ohio where I am is there's quite a few organizations that offer outdoor classes, which is just great. But I would say like a 2-day wilderness first aid classes there's probably 12 different organizations that you could get trained through. And then each one, of course, the cost is a component of this. And one of the things that is part of my pedagogy is making sure that cost is not a deterrent to getting to the outdoors, which is one of the reasons why I got in with Girls Who Hike Ohio, so that I can start offering some of these trainings without money and such being a barrier. Um, so yeah, so wilderness first aid, I would say if you can't do wilderness first aid, then at least do basic first aid CPR through your local Red Cross, right? It's a 4 to 8 hour class that you can do in one chunk or a couple of different smaller sections, and at
Oh,
least you've got that.
yeah.
There's a whole bunch of other ones that I could recommend, but I would say like do what is going to make you feel comfortable first and foremost. Like I know some nurses that feel really comfortable with the first aid side of it, but then the like survival skills side, they don't feel comfortable with. So those are two different avenues for training that you would want to look at.
Okay. Expand a little bit on survival skills. Like, so we understand like the first aid, like we said, the splints and CPR and
Yeah. Mhm.
band-aids, but what about that other side?
So there's a couple different variations I would put on this. I have been a part of like just your bring your camp chair out to a campsite for the weekend and let's talk about how to build a fire and a shelter, and some of those like low stakes entry. But then I've also been part of other trainings that I really enjoyed where they drop you in the middle of the woods and you are only allowed to carry 5 survival items with you and you got to figure out how to survive for 3 to 4 days. So it's whatever your cup of tea is, really.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm sure that that one you kind of want a little bit experience, under
Yeah, yeah, that would not be like level one.
that. Yeah.
I had to work myself up to that one. Yeah.
Right. Right.
But talk about like the sense of empowerment that you get from being able to do something like that. It really was like I did that particular course when I was going through some heavy stuff with my life. So it was a really great place for me to deal with my stuff, but then also like channel that energy into doing this amazing survival challenge.
Mhm. It is something, I mean, to even though it doesn't really fix your, situation, maybe career wise or family wise, but just being able to go out there and like learning how to start a fire
Yeah.
or,
Mhm.
even something that simple, building maybe a small shelter. It does give you so much more confidence that you can kind of
Yeah.
take that and put that energy towards whatever you might be facing.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with you 110% in terms of
I
that.
led a winter skills survival class at Mohican back in, is that December, I think? And yes, there was a cabin involved for the women that wanted the class, but I still took them outside. We did first aid on the trail. We did basic land navigation. We did identifying like what's a safe campsite to find when you're in the middle of the woods. Oh no, what if it is raining or if it's super windy? Is this a safe spot? We did how to build shelters, basic fire lays. We talked about personal safety, which is different for everybody. So I just explained my background with that realm. And that was like such a cool experience. Like so many of them were hungry for those skills and the opportunity to learn them in an environment that's not so intimidating. I think when a lot of people hear survival training, and this was my experience when I first got into the field, is like it's these big ex-military macho guys. And here I am, little 5'2" me, still feisty as heck, but it's a different environment for personal safety for me than it is for the 6'5" buff guy walking through the woods, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think machoism can only go so far, but
Yeah.
brains and being able to stay focused with whatever situation you're up against is sometimes machoism doesn't really isn't necessary. Yeah, yeah. So this is great. I like doing this. So you're going out there. You're either going on your own. You're going with some friends. You mentioned, the empowerment that it gives you. Have you gotten any maybe words of concern from family and
Oh my
friends?
gosh.
Kind of,
Every time I go out, are you kidding me? I've been
yeah,
doing this for like 20 years. And I will say like my parents are much more like, all right, fine. I don't like what you're doing, but you have your Garmin. I have your itinerary. You've identified all the bailout points. I've explained enough of my method to them to where they don't freak out.
mhm,
Now, I will say my mom, she like will still, I share my location with her. Um, and she'll still like if I don't text her when I get to the campsite and she knows I have my Garmin with me and I have the ability to text her, I'll get a message at like 1 o'clock in the morning, like, are you dead? So it's
yeah,
I'm lucky to have people that check up on me. So I laugh about it and it is sometimes annoying, but at the same time, it's a blessing to have that circle of people.
yeah, yeah, yeah. One thing I always say, I mean, I totally understand wanting to get out and get away from
Yep.
society and all that, but always just let at least somebody know, hey, I'm
Right.
going to be here and I'm planning to come back at this time, on this day. Just let me check in with you. If I don't check in with you,
Yeah.
reaching out to me. So that's always a great, great thing to do. And it's great
And
that
I
you
will
support a family too.
Yeah. And I will say too, like my parents are back in Pittsburgh and I still let them know whenever, not necessarily like a day hike always,
Yeah.
but like the weekend endeavors and all of that, I make sure that they know. But then I also have, depending on where I'm at in Ohio or surrounding states, right? Like I've got a contact somewhere nearby where if I needed somebody to get there faster, then, my friends up here in Northeast Ohio that they know. So, I mean, that's one of the pieces I would push for folks is find out your family people, but then also find some local people. And I've told women that are on some of the hikes around here, like, if I need to be your emergency contact, just give me a heads up. I don't mind if it's what helps you feel more comfortable outdoors.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say the all-female group, the Girls Who Hike Ohio, there's a lot of communication between the women that so far that I've seen.
Yeah.
And it's not just throwing up memes and funny, stories. It's like a growing community.
Yeah.
There's more to it. There's a lot of like I don't not confidence, but it's a supportive group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh, let's see. Let's talk about the hygiene side. You're out
Okay.
there, nobody can expect you to like take a shower when you're out in the middle of a mountain or in the middle of a desert, wherever you're at. What sort of things do you take, even if it's just like soap, what type of hygiene for those who aren't aware and,
Yeah.
ask these questions like, what am I supposed to do? How do I do this? And how do I do that? What about the personal hygiene side?
Oh gosh, I feel like I could talk a lot about this because I've had to deal with personal hygiene in a variety of different environments. Like when I was in Grand Canyon back in October, like that level of hygiene is not go jump in the river because one, it's the Colorado River and you'll get swept downstream. But
Right.
also, like where we were camping is in the middle of the desert, and even though it was October, there wasn't flowing water. It was just a little, trickle that we had to deal with. So, I'd say like baseline. I mean, there's always the option to jump in the lake or the creek. Hopefully, you've done your homework about the ramifications of that, both, temperature, what's in the water, like think about leave no trace principles, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
I always like will recommend folks take water and then you're supposed to go 200 feet off the trail, and you can clean yourself that way. So there's that. I also will tell people to give yourself I've always heard it called a trucker bath. So you carry like those personal wipes with you, and they're the big squares. So I rip in half or in quarters, depending on how much of my body I'm trying to clean.
Mhm.
And you just give yourself a good wipe down kind of a thing. And then that goes into my trash bag that I pack back out with me. Um, so there's that side of it. I do carry like a little tiny body glide or a deodorant, just for that. But if I'm going into like bear country, I make sure it's that body glide that doesn't have an odor to it. For your period, I use the cups. And that seems to work out really great. There's a whole bunch of different brands that you could look into. I don't even remember what brand mine is because I've had it for so long. I also, to be honest with you, I will kind of like time out my backpacking trips so that that's not really something that I have to worry about. I realize that not every woman has that ability to, but that's something that I keep in mind. I always carry a toothbrush with me for that side of hygiene. What else can I tell you? I mean, that's the quick and dirty version. Not to be punny, but you know what I mean.
No, yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah.
But that is a good idea. Know the creatures and critters that are going to be
Yeah.
around your area because, yeah, you don't want floral scents and you don't want food scents to attract things that you really don't want to attract.
Yeah.
So that's a
Well, in
good.
the grand scheme of things, it's like I embrace the suck when I'm out backpacking because it's going to be hard no matter what. And I embrace the stink. Like as long as I keep the important parts of my body
Mhm.
relatively clean, then it's okay. Now I will say hygiene on a like through hike is a little bit different. And that, I could do a whole other segment on that. But at least with some of those long trails, like most of the time you have access to some sort of a shower house at some point,
Mhm.
which definitely helps.
Now, when you camp, do you tent camp? Are you van camping? Are you camping in a camper? What's your idea of camping?
Oh, it's really, if it's just me and my dog, it's a lot easier if I can just put her in the tent with me at night. I have hammock camped. I used to do a lot more car camping when I was just getting into being in the outdoors, but now, to be honest with you, I'd be totally comfortable just putting a tarp shelter up in the middle of the
Ah,
woods. And I'll pass out, lay my little pad down, and I'm out. That makes it trickier if I have a dog with me though, because then like any little thing that's like scurrying around in the brush, she's gonna be like, "Oh, what was that?" Right?
yeah.
And then I'm up. So,
Yeah, you're not going to sleep then.
but I also like my gear is not super heavy, so I can carry a tent that fits. It's a one person tent, but because I'm so short, my dog fits at the bottom of it, so it works out that way.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm a variety camper. I definitely prefer low stakes, but I will absolutely like fill up the cooler and glamp it up if I'm feeling that way. It's just not
And
my favorite.
yeah, that's no, that's great because a lot of people think there's only one way to camp and it's got to
Oh,
be
absolutely
this
not.
way. And
Yeah.
exactly, and it's like, no, I've tent camped, I've, camped in a cabin with, like off-grid style. There's all different ways to camp. So for a lot of women who, aren't sure how to do it or where to start, just, you know, you can just buy a cheap tent, a small one person, two-person tent
Yeah.
and make it an experience.
And I
Um,
will say with folks too, it depends on also if there's my preference, but then like when I go with my two other girlfriends who are around here, they are a little bit more high maintenance, maybe would be the friendly way to say it. So like there has to be for my one friend, Carrie, who I absolutely adore, but she's high maintenance. Like there has to be running water, a bathroom that may heated would be great. She wants her car somewhere nearby. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just not my preference. So,
yeah,
but I will say, like, when I lead some of the backpacking trips that I do as well, what I will say to women is like, I have a ton of gear that you can borrow from me. So if you want to try hammock camping, I will bring my hammock for you to try this weekend. And if you don't like it and you want to go back to a tent, we'll just swap because I'm comfortable on a hammock. Like
yeah,
again, I go back to I don't want money and gear to be a barrier for you to get to the outdoors.
mhm, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's hard enough just to try and tear yourself away from,
Right?
so many obligations here that, yeah, you don't want to trip yourself up with taking, the right tent or,
Yeah.
any of that type of stuff. Now we've talked, well, actually, you've mentioned a couple times leave no trace, and
Mhm.
I've kind of brought that up in a couple of my um, podcasts, a couple of my episodes, but leave no trace.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
The short version of it is being cognizant that every action we take in the outdoors has an impact on the surrounding environment. Even for those of us who practice leave no trace, we're still leaving a trace no matter how hard we try. It certainly would be better than some other strategies I've seen, but yeah, so like we have that responsibility to understand that every single action that we take in the outdoors is going to have some layer of impact.
Right. Yeah. So, like the basics would be, clean up after yourself, you
Mhm.
know, what you bring with you, make sure you take with you. Don't leave the
Yeah.
garbage, clean up
Plan
after.
ahead and prepare. Leave
Yes.
what you find.
Yes.
Small
Yes.
campfire impact. I mean, I could do, there's like hand signals and everything that go along with it, but I'm not going to show you that because you have to go to the training for it.
I was gonna say that sounds like that's something we need to like, be educated on, which would be good. I always encourage more education, but yeah, you're right. It there's a lot more to it, but you're right. The basics is, try to leave everything the way you found it, Um, try not to again, a small fire. We don't need some big raging bonfire in the middle of the
Yeah.
woods, no. um, you know, when you have to use, well, I was going to say the bathroom, but when you have to go,
Yeah.
like you said, what was it, 200 feet from a path
And waterways. Yeah.
and water. Okay, yeah, and the waterways. Clean up your toiletries and things like that. But there are, there's a whole lot more to that whole concept,
Right.
of leave no trace. That you're right, a class would much better, taking
Mhm.
a class would kind of teach you a whole lot more.
Yeah,
And
and I try to integrate all of that into the hikes that I lead and the backpacking trips that I take. Like we talk about leave no trace. I may not explicitly say you're talking about leave no trace principle number two right now, right? Like, but we're
yeah,
going to talk about, I'm noticing that this is happening at our campsite, or our noise level for this group is pretty high right now. Imagine if you were the solo hiker walking past this group right now. Like, would you be joining in, or would you be the one rolling your eyes, kind of a thing?
yeah. I think the concept of getting out and going camping, is it just to party, or are we, really going out to either learn, educate, de-stress, ground yourself, you know, I agree. Yeah. The noise
And
level
each
should
one
be
of the
it.
each one of those is okay. Everybody experiences the outdoors in their own way. And so I'm not going to sit here and judge somebody for experiencing the outdoors in a way that's different than mine. I think about that a lot with so I've worked with inner city kids for 15 years,
Mhm.
and very different than what I've grown up with. I grew up and had green spaces everywhere. There was a creek running around the corner of my backyard. So my experience and exposure is way different than theirs. Not that one is better than the other, but when I would take my students out into green spaces and they would behave a certain way, I'd be like, "Oh my God, why don't you know that?" Or "Why is that bug such a big deal for you?" And you could make the same argument where if I go downtown and I hear sounds that I'm unfamiliar with and I kind of freak out a little bit, it's the same idea.
Good point. Good point.
hmm But we do want you, whatever your experience is, just to try to be respectful, especially when it comes to safety.
Well, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Speaking of safety, I mean, it's always going to be a topic.
Yeah.
Um, you know, a lot of places will tell you, keep your food contained.
Yep.
You mentioned being out in bear country, so definitely keep it contained and up off of the ground.
If that's what the guidance is for that area. Yeah.
Okay. So it's always going to be a little bit different depending on where you're at, correct?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's some basic principles that you can always abide by, but anything that is smelly and might attract things, you're going to need to do something with. So even like the lip balm that I just put on my lips, right? I've even put that inside of my bear bag and hung it up in a tree. Or like I was out in Montana a couple years ago, and they don't even want you hanging it in trees. They have this specialty big black canisters that you have to
Ah,
have a key to unlock because the bears are so smart. They figured out how to open the other bear canisters. But
of
the black
course
bears,
they would.
I know it is insane. Like from a scientist perspective and evolutionary biology, it's really cool. But it's also like it's angering because you're like, this animal has now identified this as a food source and is not doing its natural thing, which
Yeah.
gets me frustrated. So, but yeah, there's definitely like always planning ahead and preparing. I always call the rangers ahead of time to see if there's any specialty things going on, any trail closures, any like animals that I do need to be worried about. And like I do my homework before I go places. And I think that is just a benefit for everybody.
No, and I think that's a great thing to mention also is if you're going to a national park, check out the website at the national park. If you're going to a state park, check out the state park. Check out the
Mhm.
rules, guidelines, any warnings that could be going on that you really
Yeah.
just might not be aware of. Always check the websites and, just verify that it's safe for you to go there, as safe as possible,
Yeah.
being
And
out.
talk to a ranger. I mean, that's one, they get paid to educate the public, right? But then two, not enough people call and are cognizant about the impact that their presence in the park might have. So, and I'm not just saying this because I work for a national park, but
Well, no, I mean, they are there for a reason.
and they're passionate about the park itself, the idea of being outdoors. Like, why not tap into that? And they're going to have the most up-to-date information. That website may or may not have been updated in the past 24, 48, week kind of a
That's a good
thing.
point. That's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I have pretty much every park in Ohio on my phone. And I just give them a call. Now, I will say not every ranger station is going to be able to answer you pretty quickly. So you got to really plan ahead for some of these trips. And I could go on a whole tangent about how our parks are underfunded and all of that, but we'll save that maybe for another
Well,
conversation.
yeah. Yeah.
But yes, please call the park offices and all of that ahead of time and ask them for their advice. They'll love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get just a little personal. Do you have a favorite camping trip? Like top camping trip, if you could do it 10 more times, which would be your favorite place? Calm down, Walter. I'm good.
I have been so blessed to go to so many places. And like I've taken advantage of having the ability to travel places. Um, I'm gonna give you three because they're the first three that popped into my head. So I do the North Country Trail section of the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore every year, and was able the past 2 years to take a group from Girls Who Hike Ohio. And I love that trail because one, it's a hard trail. So like if you can deal with Lake Superior weather and the terrain up on top of the cliffs, like there's sand and then there's dirt and then there's rocks. It's like Russian roulette for what you're going to get day to day. And it's one of those trails where you are met with this awesome beauty. And at the same time, when you're standing up on these cliffs that are 250, 300 feet tall, and you're like, oh my God, look at the power that nature has to create something like this. But it's also, just as beautiful. Um, that level of empowerment is pretty cool. I love that trail. Like every time I go back, I absolutely love it. I have a section of the Appalachian Trail going up through Shenandoah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first time I did a long through hike, that section like broke me. I was dealing with a whole bunch of stuff when I got on trail, and that was the spot where my body was like, all right, we're ready to deal with all of your emotional stuff right now. And so that section of um, the AT will always be like near and dear to my heart. And it's beautiful. It's also hard as heck. It's all rocky and rooty, and there's hills, and you might run into a black bear. Probably will run into a black bear, but absolutely beautiful. And then I think my other favorite section trail, oh, has to be. Oh, there's so many. I'm like looking at my list of trails. There's a map behind the computer.
Oh,
Yeah, I've marked off all of the trails that I've done over the course of my life. Um, Hmm. There is a section up in Sequoia National Park. I don't remember what the name of the trail is, but I just remember the feeling of walking through those big trees and
mm-hmm.
just feel so small. It was a very humbling moment. So like somebody can get to Sequoia, Kings Canyon, or get up to Redwoods National Forest, and you wanna feel humbled. Yeah, and then like you think about the wildfires that they've been dealing with over there too, and like
Oh,
those trees are still standing. Like again, it's that I love those places where you have the opportunity to see this testament of the power of nature, like the
mhm.
beauty and the power at the same time. It's super cool. I could
Yeah.
nerd out about that, obviously.
No, that I mean, I agree with you. I mean, the strength that nature has to go through fires and crazy winter and crazy hot summers, and you're still going to see, blooming foliage, flowers.
Yeah.
It's a power that you just have to respect it.
Yeah. I think about when I'm out. So I teach medicinal and edible plants classes too, as a part of my survival class series. And, it's interesting because you'll be walking along and it'll be like, this plant is really good if you have your kidneys need to be cleaned out, kind of a
Mhm.
thing. But also, there's a plant right next to it that could kill you, right? Like that
And they look
juxtaposition.
the same.
Like nature is a tricky person. I'm trying not to cuss on your podcast.
Oh, it's okay. I'm pretty sure I've already cussed a time or two, so you're totally fine. But yeah, that's true about the plants. That's so true about the mushrooms. Oh my God, just when I think like, okay, got it, I know what it is, and they're like, no,
Nope.
it's wrong. I'm like, screw it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so that was your best. What was well, you know what? What's interesting is that your best was also, it sounds like it's also your most difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try and think. Where were we? Oh, yes. I was kind of like amazed, and well, not really amazed, but it was interesting that some of your best places were also some of your toughest places. So the challenge, it wasn't like a beat you down challenge and send you back home running. It was like a challenge that just gave you more confidence.
Yeah,
That sounds,
it's you find yourself out on the trail. And I know that sounds so cliche to say, but I'll tell you what, for pretty much all of my adult life and a lot of my teenage life, anytime I was really struggling with something, man, I went outside, whether that was my backyard, my grandma's farm, the woods up behind our house. Like I found my peace in the outdoors. I might not, be able to like solve world hunger kind of a thing, but I was at least not in panic mode anymore.
yeah.
And then, when just being a teacher and assistant principal, like my day was full of putting fires out all day long and serving everybody else's needs, which is, like I'm a caretaker that comes with my personality. I realize I signed up for that, right?
Mhm.
But you'd come home at the end of the day and my cup would just be empty. So I would go and Bailey and I would go take, really long walks through the woods. And that was where I got myself back together.
Mhm.
Like heartaches, grief, all of those, big emotions. I was out on the trail dealing with most of that. And that's hard for some people to understand. That's not everybody's way to deal with their stuff. But for
Yeah.
me, that was my medicine.
Mhm. I think I mean, I'm nowhere near, I'm not a medical professional by any means, but there are a lot of people that I talk to, myself included, where just getting out into the green and just taking myself out of the situation,
Yeah.
it just it almost makes it just makes things, you can kind of see things differently. You get yourself out of the box and you can kind of look into the box and you can kind of see things that maybe you just didn't see when you were stuck there with it like right in your face.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, any future camping and hiking plans then you already got?
Yeah. Okay, so my girlfriends always give me a hard time, but they love this about me. I'm definitely a type A planner. So like I have all my trips for the year planned out and have had them planned out for 2025 since like October.
You know,
Mostly
it's
because
like January 13th, though, right?
yeah, I
January.
know, right? Yeah, so like there's a whiteboard right next to my desk right now, and I've got like all the backpacking trips that I'm doing on it. My when I went over for New Year's at my friend Carrie's place, she was like, just hand it to me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she says, just hand me the planner because I know that you've got like your whole life
uh,
camping trips planned out. This is just the planning version of this, right? Like I have a bigger planner over here that has
oh
all
my
the details.
gosh.
But I like I love to get outside. I love to travel. I have the ability to travel. And I tell you what, I spent 15 years of my life as an educator where it was more work to take a day off than to go and like just stay in the building kind of a thing. So like when I left the district, I left behind a lot of PTO days because it's hard to take a day. I think women especially really have this extra pressure on us to do all the things, right? And to not take care of your mental health and not take a break and all of that. And that was my life for the past couple of years. So this year with my new job, it's still a hard job, don't get me wrong, but my boss, who's a wonderful human, is just like, listen, you earn these days off. Your mental health is important to me. Like you're not going to do great work for organization if you're feeling burnt out and awful and hating this job. So I expect that by the end of the year, all of your vacation days are going to be taken. And I was just like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, can I get that in
Who
writing?
are you? That was definitely not the that was never explicitly said to me in my previous job that like you couldn't take a day off, but it was kind of implied.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's really
Yeah,
nice to work for an organization that values that side of their employee health. I appreciate that.
that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't always find that. I'm sure there's places out there that are supportive of mental health and you
Yeah.
taking the days you have earned. Agreed, agreed. Yes, there are some of those out there.
Yes. Yes. So yes, I say all that to say that yes, I will be on many, many trips. You will see lots of posts about my adventures this year, and I'm really excited to take people with me on a lot of these backpacking trips. Like I've got some personal stuff, personal trips planned and all
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that,
yeah.
but also again, I have the ability and I'm in such a great emotional and mental state. Like, I want to take people out and have them even have like a little semblance of finding themselves while they're out on the trail and to get a little taste of empowerment. And like, I've had some really powerful moments on trail by myself. And I've had some really powerful moments like when I've been guiding trips with people, like hug it out, crying in the middle of the trail kind of a thing. And I feel so blessed to be trusted with that position within the group, and that I have the ability to create that safe environment for folks to be vulnerable and to have these great experiences. So, heck, I'm going to get outside and take as many people with me as I can to see the beautiful places and have beautiful experiences.
Well, awesome. Okay, so you know what? Let's um where can people who are in the area that want to take advantage of this, where can they go?
So if you are looking for the free version of everything, so to speak, with Girls Who Hike Ohio, so I'm an ambassador with them. I've been an ambassador for 4 years in the Northeast Ohio region, but I go all over the place with them. Um, the group hikes, whether it's a day hike or a backpacking trip, is all posted on that Facebook event page under Girls Who Hike Ohio. Um, for the anything that requires like a camping reservation, there's a deposit that you put down. But because we're a nonprofit, I don't make money off of it. It is literally just to pay the campsite and maybe firewood fee kind of a thing. So all the backpacking trips that I'm doing, with the exception of two, it's $10 a deposit, and that holds your spot until the actual trip itself. The survival classes that I talked about, those are going to be posted on my personal Facebook page here in the coming weeks.
Okay.
And those are weekend women's skills classes for the outdoors. So fire building, shelter building, your survival priorities. How do you find and boil water and filter water? Basic land navigation, wilderness first aid, personal safety, those kinds of things. So Facebook right now is the easiest way to find me, my events, and if for whatever reason, I'm not your cup of tea, or the Girls Who Hike Ohio is not your cup of tea, I've got plenty of connections. It's again the great thing about social media, although I have a love-hate relationship with it, is that there's so many groups that we can probably find you somebody
Yeah.
that is working for you.
Yeah. 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 I gotcha. Social media can be great. Uh, then it can also be bad. It kind of depends on how you use it. How you use it.
I hated it as an admin at a school because all the drama, all the fights were like, she said something about my mama on Instagram or TikTok or
Yes.
whatever. And I'm just
Yes.
like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But
Snapchat. Oh my God. My kids, when Snapchat came out, it was just a whole
right.
fires left and right, fires left and right.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I will also include, if it's okay, the links that, if anybody has questions or is
Yeah.
interested, I'd be happy to get that info from you, and I'll put it
Sure.
in the caption here. And thank you so much for taking the time to come and be
Absolutely.
on the video, on the podcast. You're actually my first one because the girl before you had to cancel. So you're the first one.
I get like a special prize for that, right?
You do.
I appreciate, like woman to woman, I appreciate that you are utilizing this platform to, like open the doors for folks to find a way to get involved with the outdoors. And yeah, I really appreciate that. And then also just to get people into like being safe in the outdoors is the other side of this. So I'm glad that you asked some of those questions, because
Yeah.
I don't want you to just like walk out the door, like be safe so that then my search and rescue team and I don't have to come and find you.
Right, right. But I know that, there were so many women when I started joining some of these Facebook groups, they just didn't know where to start, and they were afraid
It's
of,
overwhelming. There's so
yeah,
much to think
yeah,
about. Yeah.
there is.
Yeah.
And the fear that's out there, and a lot of it is just, a lot of it, I mean, you do need to take precautions, but some of that, it just like, you just, like I said, when you're inside that box and you're just putting on all the fear, all the fear, all the fear, You just don't feel like there's a way out. But once you get out there, it's just different. It's just you see more clearer. So I appreciate you coming on and giving all this great information. You've actually given me a whole lot more than what I realized what you did and how active you are. So that is actually really
Yeah.
great.
The outdoors has given so much to me, and education has given so much to me. So I mean, have to absolutely pay it forward. I don't know any other way to live my life. So
For sure, for sure.
yeah. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing your next episode drop. I'm loving your little ghost
Well,
stories.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And you will probably see me at one of your soon to be classes.
I hope so.
I am so going to be there.
Yes.
Um, but oh, okay. Thank you so much, though. I appreciate it.
Yep. Have a good night.
You too. Well, that is the end of my first interview for my podcast, Campfire Ghost Stories. And I want to thank Krista so much for taking some time out and talking to us with about camping, hiking, solo hiking. She touched on some really great information, and a couple of key takeaways that I found important were to research free classes. You can check the websites to see when those would be available. I'm not saying they're always going to be available, but definitely if you're interested in learning and gaining knowledge and becoming more experienced with being out in the green, and money, could sometimes be an issue, definitely take advantage of those free classes. Another important key takeaway is that there are many different types of camping. It doesn't have to be, just in a tent. It doesn't have to be just in a cabin. It doesn't have to be with or without electricity or water. There are all different types of camping styles out there, and I definitely encourage you to find one that works for yourself. If you want to get out there, if you want to get out to the green for enjoyment, for mental health, for just learning about what's around you, there are many different styles of camping and hiking that you can take advantage of. The leave no trace concept, it's very important to please pick up after yourself. The green is not, it's not for you to act like a child and leave things, leave garbage, leave waste and things like that. It's not there for you to destroy. It is there for you to, enjoy and learn about and hopefully help to preserve. So if you're not sure about the leave no concept behind, you can definitely learn about it on your local park websites, or just a simple Google will also share information on how to leave no trace behind. The last takeaway is that if you are out camping, if you're new to camping and let's say you decide to go to a national forest, definitely take advantage of the park rangers that are there. And this can be at any sort of camping area. If there are park rangers, you can definitely get in contact with them. They are there to help and to educate. And just if you have any questions, if you're not sure about something, you can always reach out to your park ranger. Like Krista mentioned, they might not be waiting by the phone, but definitely leave a message and plan ahead to wait and hear back from them. Remember, you deserve to exist. You deserve to be out in the green if that's where you choose to go. The green does not care about your religion, about how you identify, doesn't care if you're gay or straight, doesn't care if you're trans. The green is always there, and you are always welcome there. And you're always welcome here too at Campfire Ghost Stories. So if you have any stories you'd like to share, any additional tips or insights you would like to share to anybody who would like to get out to the green, who is thinking about camping, who is thinking about hiking, feel free to leave your comment. If you have a story you would like to share, this is Campfire Ghost Stories, and I am always looking for your ghost stories. If you have one that you feel comfortable sharing, of course, names can be omitted. not a problem there. Just let me know. But you can send an email to campfireghoststories8@gmail.com. That is campfireghoststories8@gmail.com. Remember, you are welcome here in the green. I can say it 100,000 times. Always take care of yourself. Always try to ground yourself. And I hope to see you at the next campfire. Happy camping.